How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your June 2019 horoscope for Leo, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. We're starting June off with the new moon in Gemini happening on June 3rd, and this is happening in your 11th house. So when you have a new moon, it's when you have both the luminaries in the same sign. It's a good time to reset your energy, get level-headed, and maybe reset some intentions in that area. And with this new moon with this new moon being in Gemini, the sign of communication, the sign of ideas, the sign of, spreading that information. This is kind of like, hey, what are some new ideas and new ways to go about these things? Now, this is happening in your 11th house of friendships, of social circles, bigger groups of people and networks. And this new moon in Gemini is going to be a really good time to kind of reset your energy with your friends, with your friend groups and who you really associate with, and maybe establish better lines of connection, of communication between your friends, or maybe, just kind of establishing a new way that you relate and communicate and act with your friendships. But the next thing that's happening in June is on June 4th, we're going to have Mercury enter Cancer. Now, Mercury, of course, is the planet of communication, of our mindset and our thoughts and how we vocalize those things. And the sign of Cancer is all about trust, empathy, nurturing, being very close to, defending and protecting what's important, what is necessary. And as Mercury enters the sign of Cancer, this is where Mercury's tone is going to be a lot more, not serious, but more conservative and more focusing on what Mercury needs to say. Like this month is going to be like, say what you need to say. Don't waste your time not doing it. However, as Mercury does enter Cancer and the way that we communicate and our ideas, they're more, a little bit more emotional, a little bit more looking to protect our feelings, looking to, empathize with other people more. Mercury is entering your 12th house, and the 12th house is all about repressed and unacknowledged parts of yourself. It's also about the subconscious and dreams and, God, I cannot think of the word I'm looking for right now, hidden things. And as Mercury does enter your 12th house, this is where a lot of ideas and a lot of things that could come up, like a lot of pinpoint, small mercurial things may come up that you weren't really aware of or that you didn't really recognize before that you're now starting to realize that you need to attend to. Since Mars has been in Cancer for the past little while and kind of been bringing up some subconscious problems, Mercury is going to be coming in there and giving you a lot fresher perspective on this and giving you more of the answers that you're looking for rather than just the problems that are kind of getting in your way. And then as we move forward onto June 8th, we're going to have Venus enter Gemini. Venus is the planet of value, love, relationships. She wants you to connect to the things that you love. She wants you to indulge and embrace and experience and express. And as Venus goes into the sign of Gemini, which is, again, communication, ideas, Venus is looking for mental stimulation. She's looking for what glitters and what's going to spark her interest and attention. And as Venus goes into your 11th house of friends, this is going to be a really positive time for reaching out to your networks and to your communities and to a bigger group of people. Venus in Gemini may be bringing something new to you that's kind of, you've never done it before, but something easy and fun for you to learn. Venus going through your 11th house is just helping you do that with other people. So my recommendation is while Venus is in your 11th house in Gemini, explore your friends, hang out with them more and see what they could bring to you because there's going to be more to that story as we move on. However, as we do continue, on June 12th, that's when we're going to have Mars conjoin the North Node in Cancer and oppose Saturn, which is a pretty big deal. Mars has been in Cancer for some time now, and we all know that it's in its sign of fall, where it can't really act all that properly. Mars is in your 12th house of the subconscious, of repressed and unacknowledged parts of yourself, so you can be getting angry and not really sure which exactly direction to take. However, as Mars hits the North Node being, Rahu, what we're hungry for, what direction we're going in, what we're wanting to consume. It's also in the sign of Cancer of our needs. What do we need? What do we need to protect? And as Mars hits the North Node in your 12th house, this may be a time of what are your needs that you may not have addressed before, that you may not have seen before, that you need to take assertive action on in order to protect yourself in the face of opposition. This is also Mars opposing Saturn while Saturn's in Capricorn. And while Saturn's in Capricorn, transiting your 6th house of your health, your daily habits, your routine, your work, you could feel a lot of responsibility and a lot of power struggles that are without, like, you don't have control over here. And Mars hitting that North Node is like kind of giving you that edge to go in the direction that you need to go to in order to protect yourself better and to defend yourself better and to give you more of what you need. Then as we move forward a few days later on June 15th, that's when we're going to have Mercury conjoin the North Node in Cancer. And this is, I've been saying this in all my horoscopes, but this is kind of like shoot first, ask questions later. Because as Mars hits the North Node, it's going to be very tempting to, do all that shit that I just said. However, as Mercury conjoins the North Node a few days later, this is giving us the better image and the better visual representation of what addressing our needs look like. This is the 12th house that we're talking about here, about repressed and unacknowledged parts of yourself. So it's not like you're going to be exactly completely aware of all of this stuff firsthand. However, as Mercury conjoins the North Node, this is kind of about realizing what direction you need to go into by getting the communication, by getting the answers that you need that kind of say like, hey, this is what my needs are and this is how I need to address them. But also on June 15th, we're having the full moon in Sagittarius. And a full moon, a new moon is like everything's focused on one area. Let's chill out for a little while. The full moon is lighting up an axis and a dynamic, and it's bringing light to the things that we don't always see. This full moon is happening in your 5th house of love, romance, children, sex, art and creativity. And as, the sun's in Gemini and this full moon's happening in this 5th house where Jupiter's also transiting, this is really about looking at, okay, now that I've started to take the direction on what my needs are and getting those needs met, now it comes down to what story do I want to write now and continuing forward? What's this new story and what do I want to put in this story? What do I believe from all of this and what does growing from this and learning from this look like? Then as we move forward on June 21st, that's when we're going to have the sun enter Cancer. And as the sun enters Cancer, it's also entering your 12th house. Again, subconscious, unacknowledged, repressed parts of yourself, things you don't always see, hidden enemies. And as the sun goes into Cancer and into your 12th house, this is lighting up a part of you that you're not always familiar with. The 12th house also deals with isolation. So when you have the sun transiting this spot, you may feel, a little bit indifferent. You may feel a little bit weird and, just not exactly yourself, especially if you're a Leo sun or a Leo rising. However, as the sun goes through there, this is illuminating and bringing light to more of the repressed and unacknowledged parts of yourself. And this is Cancer. This is talking about the things that you need, the things that are going to nurture you, the things that are going to protect you, the things that you need to trust more, the ways that you can be more vulnerable and open with yourself. And that's going to be pretty important. However, also on June 21st, as the sun moves into Cancer, Mercury will enter shadow. Mercury here in July is actually going to retrograde in Leo, and it starts its shadow at the later degrees of Cancer. And as Mercury hits shadow, we all know this is going to be kind of like that significator and that time where you'll start, when Mercury retrogrades and comes back, whatever happens when Mercury enters shadow, you're going to come back to that. So with Mercury being in your 12th house, you may find, something confusing, something out of the blue that you weren't really sure of, that's not really in your control kind of coming up, that, it's going to be a process. But later on, as once we get to June 26th, that's when we're going to have Mercury enter Leo and enter your 1st house. And I wanted to bring this up because as Mercury goes from Cancer to Leo, we're switching over from saying what we need to say to saying what's on our hearts and speaking it passionately and, not being afraid to vocalize those things. And with Mercury going into your 1st house of yourself, of your personality, like don't be surprised if you're just feeling yourself and saying what you got to say. Or saying whatever it is you want to say, what's on your heart and what's on your mind. However, Mercury is going to later station retrograde in Leo in your 1st house. And I want to say, as with Mercury hitting shadow in Cancer in your 12th house, you might say something and this miscommunication that Mercury retrogrades are known for may be on you on this time. And it may come from something that you weren't even aware that you said, or that you weren't even aware that it hurt someone, or whatever the situation is. However, I wanted to just emphasize that this Mercury retrograde is going to have a lot of emphasis on you specifically, since this is so much catering into your 1st house and your own stuff in your chart. And so we'll talk more about that in my Mercury retrograde video, as well as the July horoscopes. However, that's what I got for you guys for June. This month is going to be intense. It is going to be rough, but I can't emphasize enough on take the action that is required to get your needs met. And if you have to protect yourself, protect yourself. And if you have to defend yourself, defend yourself. However, this isn't necessarily the time where, everything's going to be fucking amazing and great. This is the time where you're going to face opposition and you're going to face challenges, but you have to meet your needs somewhere. And this isn't about failure or things getting, you just getting beat up or anything like that. It's just about realizing what meeting your needs look like and then being able to go from there when it comes to fulfilling your wants and desires. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and liking and commenting and sharing and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be seeing you next month.